So, thank you. Thank you so much for joining today in the all-new A New Horizon introduction. So this is the introduction. Tomorrow we start 7 a.m. for Pacific time. So that's 9 for Central Time and 10 for Easter Time and 4 p.m. for European Time. I just wanted to say that because then we know that when this starts. So welcome to the New Horizon. So it's the book that came out is the catalyst for all this, because I never occurred to me to do an introduction to the infinite way, and we've done tape groups, we've went through so many transcripts and tapes and practitioner classes and you name it, all of it, but not taking the first step. So it's about time to make that first step, introducing the infinite way. But see, then it is like, we step into this in a certain frequency already. And that's so lovely, especially when you're around. When I mean you, is like you experienced listener, you with a lot of spiritual experience already, or you with no spiritual experience already. That's fine too. This is a really good moment to step into this, and because it's always a beginning. This is my statement, I could say. It's like it is always a new beginning. All your experience you had before, that's great, wonderful, but today, here, now, this is it. So if you come into the practice, as we know from Joel, like dying daily, for instance, well, that has to happen now, not tomorrow, not yesterday. So if you're still holding on to today, to something, or thinking that whatever the consideration is, doubting that the love of God will completely sustain you, that is happening today. Okay, that is the occurrence then for you. That is your experience of yourself, you could say. So the introduction then, the New Horizon, is in fact a 9-chapter book. Well, Joel recommended 8 chapters. And in the introduction, they will tell you why they put in a 9th chapter. And we can read that if you want. So that's something we'll look at today too. And the other thing that we're doing today is going through the introduction, which is in fact written by Acropolis Books. I'm using that just because it gives you an overview of they use it, of course, as a way to, well, now you should buy the book because of this and this and this. But I'm actually looking at essential chapters, which is really important. Apparently, Joel said you should know it better than your own name. That's great. But why is that so essential? And what are we actually trying to discover here? And what is the infinite way really? Now, the introduction tells you already something about that, and that to me gives me a lot of inspiration to work with it, to use it as a way to opening a new horizon. Really, it's like integrating it in your spiritual vision to come to a different experience of yourself. And that is where this book is made for. That's where the infinite way is based on. It is not based on keep doing the same thing over and over again. No, it is an infinite way of something. But what is that? What is that something then? So that's really the discovery that we make without mentioning it immediately. It is really what the discovery will be. Of course, it has everything to do with the realization of you, the recognition of your true being, of course. And so we use the book for that. There are different themes all the time. So there's a part of it, especially the first chapter, is based on a practitioner instruction, in fact, and so on. Like every chapter has its own character, which is essential to come to a like full body of spiritual teaching that points in one direction and shows you something that you might not have seen before. Okay, so that's still all very mystical talk here. It's not very clear what I'm sharing with you, but it gives you, yeah, kind of an idea. Now, today we also will be listening for 6 minutes. It's not very long. We will be listening to Joel, and maybe I'm going to start with that because it is great to bring Joel into this, since it is so related to his way of writing, his way of speaking, and in fact also the way that he his language, you could say, his vernacular, like. Yeah, that's also very important. So we listen to, it is really like the beginning steps of the infinite way.
Whereas we have no right to do either. The Master, in speaking of good, says, "Why callest thou me good? There is none good but the Father in heaven." Now, during my particular work, in the early years of this ministry, I discovered two principles of healing that made my work then outstanding and has made the healing work in the infinite way outstanding. And that is impersonalization. Not pinning good onto anyone, being thankful and grateful for those who are channels of good, of course, but recognizing that the good does not have its source in any individual, no matter how high or lofty they may be, that God is the source of all good that flows through an individual. And then being equally able, when we witness evil, not to condemn the person, but to realize that the evil is just as impersonal as the good. Actually, this changed the whole nature of a great deal of practice, because it turned us away from trying to uncover the error in your thought. It turned us away from saying, "Oh, well, you have to be more loving to get healed, or more grateful to get healed, or you must do something to get healed, or you must overcome smoking or drinking, or you must read so many pages of a spiritual book each day." All of this was done away with this revelation that you don't have to do anything. The evil itself is nothingness and is impersonal, and in the realization of this, great healing works take place. Nevertheless, as we continue on this path, it is necessary for each individual to mold themselves in accord with the pattern shown thee on the mount, the pattern shown thee by Christ Jesus. The ability to impersonalize good, impersonalize evil, the ability to forgive. Even the woman taken in adultery, which at that time was a crime equal only to murder. Don't forget, those were the two crimes for which the guilty parties were stoned to death: murder and adultery. And yet the Master could say to the woman taken in adultery, "Neither do I condemn thee. Thy sins be forgiven thee." And to the thief on the cross, "Neither do I condemn thee. I will take thee with me this night into paradise." When your consciousness is so molded that you can look at any sinner, regardless of the name or nature of their sin, and realize, "Neither do I condemn thee. I know that sin is only performed through ignorance. Therefore, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." you have molded yourself into the image and likeness of the Son of God. When you can forgive those who despitefully use you, who persecute you, ill-treat you, and forgive them not once or 10 times, but 490 times, you have molded yourself into the image of the likeness of the Son of God, and you are then heir of God, joint heir to all the heavenly riches. This path, then, of the infinite way is one in which the goal has been set of attaining spiritual illumination. Illumination as to the name and nature of God, illumination as to our relationship with God, and ultimately that blinding flash, as it was with Paul, or a sweet, gentle presence, as it has been with others, that reveals, knowest thou not? I am God in the midst of thee, and I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. This is the experience that we must attain. Never forget, however, that to attain it, it is necessary that we develop an inbuilt stillness, an inbuilt ability to listen for that voice of God. In all of our work, please remember that for as long a time as possible before the opening of a class, be silent. Sit in meditation. Sit in a listening attitude as if you are actually waiting for the still small voice to speak.
So, here an essential point of Joel, of course, to be still and to be in a meditative state even before the class of the meeting starts, which is great. It's really great. So this time I played music, and this can be helpful too. And it is like, not that I want to turn it around, and not at all. No, it is like wherever the silence is coming from, it's totally wonderful. It's totally wonderful. So sitting still before a meeting and after the meeting is really helpful. I know this from myself. Like, I'm preparing this. I'm standing still afterwards too. And why is that so great? Because you stay in the energy of it. You stay in the recognition for a little bit longer, but so to speak, in your own realm, in your own energy. That's totally helpful. Now you see that the goal of the infinite way is illumination, and the ways to it are forgiveness, like Joel shares, like forgiveness 70 times 7, or you said 490 times, but 70 times 7 we have to forgive. And so all this that Joel is giving to us will also be in the book, of course. It will be repeated, because Joel's teaching is, in fact, to a certain extent, it is simple. It is, say, very practical and simple. Yeah, this is a way to describe it. That doesn't mean that the implications are simple, or that the way to do this is simple, but the instruction is in fact quite simple. This is lovely because it, say, for instance, the idea of impersonalization of good and evil is a great helpful tool in a recognition that, like, there's no say order of difficulties, you could say. There's no difference between good and evil. Like, no, they come from the same place, and has nothing to do with you personally. Otherwise it would stick on you, so to speak. It would stick on you and you wouldn't be able to get rid of it. No, this is beyond that. It is beyond that. What is true about you is beyond opposites. It's beyond this. Now, you have heard that many times, so I'm sure that that is with you, that idea. So in the say New Horizon, there's something fundamental going on. But actually, I'm just looking for a second, like how we approaching this today, since I'm not starting with chapter 1 yet, and I'm willing to do that. I'm curious to get started. I'm into that, but it is good to build up, so to speak, the expectation or the expectancy, especially that. It's like building up the expectancy to enter into the chapters and to start listening to them, hearing them, working with them, recognizing what they actually tell you, where this is all coming from. So what I would like to do now is then to go to the, say here to the back side of the book. There's an introduction, and I'm actually going to go through that with you. So here's the New Horizon, introducing the infinite way. You see here the picture. There's a painting of Mesdag, a German, not a German, Dutch painter. The crab fishers, it's called. That's right here, they're fishing crab. And okay, so they didn't leave their nets. That's a bit an interesting thing. It's like they're actually still fishing. Oh, wait a minute, guys, get out of the water. So it's interesting that Acropolis used that as an illustration for the book. But I love the painting, and I love the paintings of Mesdag, and they look really great. So I made this sun in it. It doesn't have this sun in it, but I always like a bright star in it, because it reminds me of, oh no, this is a picture. It's beyond that. It has never to do with any of the picture. No, it's what lies beyond it. There's a new horizon coming to you in your new spiritual vision that you attain. So, a new horizon. Recommended chapters of the infinite way, essential chapters as Joel calls them, out of his complete body of lectures, classwork and books, compiled over 20 years, Joel Goldsmith recommended just 9 chapters that should be known by every student as well as they know their own name. These chapters, he said, could lift one from the 3rd dimensional consciousness to the 4th dimensional consciousness. And of course, we're going to come back to that idea many times. Each chapter in this book addresses a particular aspect of our spiritual development. The first chapter lays the groundwork, establishing our starting point in spirit. We progress through chapters covering our oneness with God and how that spiritual relationship affects other relationships. We learn about trials, barriers to growth and protection, and eventually we break through the human confines and emerge with a bolder spiritual perception. After working with all the 9 chapters, we emerge with a new understanding and awaken to the fact that our world reflects what resides in our consciousness. And when the 4th dimensional consciousness emerges, we realize and experience the infinite way of being. So of course I underlined this idea, the infinite way of being, because I love that as a title or as a way, the infinite way of being. Totally lovely. So here we are. So the infinite way of being. I love that as a title, as a path, you know, because it's like, otherwise it would be an infinite way to get to illumination or something. Like that isn't it, of course. So it's the infinite way of being, an unchangeable way of being. So everything that is changeable is not part of that and will need to be looked at and letting go of. You know, this is part of the infinite ways, like the trials, the tribulations, nobody's testing you, by the way, but you might be, say, wondering if you are ready to let go of some part of your, say, humanhood. So this release of self-identity, or the death, as we speak of, like die daily practice, the death is like dying into your humanhood continuously. You want something, you want it to be a certain way, you have a desire, you would love that to happen, you would want your situation to be different, you don't want to be sick, or you don't want to be in pain, you don't want this and you don't want that. And all of that is connected to an idea you hold about yourself. So that means that there has to be a change to be made in a certain sense. But you're not the doer of that change, because otherwise you would have done it. So here's, say, the groundwork of the infinite way of being is, in fact, this is a path that is not by your being. That's not by your doing, and that is really essential to recognize. So that's why the impersonalization of good and evil is so important, because it is like, no, it's not about all the differences that you are perceiving, not at all. It has nothing to do with it. No, it's also not about how many books and tapes and all this, how many hours you spend in meditating, or how, no. It is really about how much do you allow yourself to come into the recognition. How willing are you to be open, to actually start to listen, and to actually follow that stillness as your guide. Say, in fact, applying it in every moment, and seeing that the mind wandering that is happening is really destructive for your peace of mind. It has nothing to do with your infinite way of being. So it is really a very sweet attempt, and I say a total gift to us, to come into the practice of what is being stated in the chapters. That's why I recommend these recommended chapters. Like, yeah, it's essential. We're going to see what it actually means, because it might not be completely clear right away, because there is a practice related to it. There's a consideration to be made. There's things to be let go of in order to let something come to you. How else would you listen to a still small voice while you have 50 voices in your head screaming at you to go this or that direction? You know, all that is not it. And we're very tolerant, letting our minds go in all kinds of directions, and wonder why we are in conflict, for instance, or why we don't feel well. So do these wanderings that we're doing in our minds, like, do they have any meaning? Will they help us to continue on our path? No, absolutely not. So that's why the infinite way of being is, in fact, like a direct experience of your connection with your true essence. And that is not a path in that sense, it is an experience. So this will certainly be coming back in this too. It's like, no, the practice that we call practice is in fact something that you have to use in a very specific way if you want it to be effective and quick and say easy. Otherwise you think you have to get yourself from a third dimension into a fourth dimension, and which is impossible. Like, that will not happen. There's no link between you experiencing yourself in the third dimension and you experiencing yourself in the fourth dimension. There's no link related to that. There's not like I talk myself into the fourth dimension. And this dimension is, fourth dimension is the dimension free of time. So that means if you can, say, settle down into your quiet for a moment to allow a new experience to come to you, then something can happen. It's the same as the dying daily practice. It's like you don't die daily to say squeeze down your desires in order to maintain some kind of peace in your three-dimensional experience of yourself. That's a total impossibility. No, the three-dimensional experience of yourself is what pain is. Your three-dimensional experience of yourself is what sickness is, what conflict is what fear is. As long as you perceive yourself in time, you're in fact in fear. That is directly related, because it has nothing to do with changelessness, with an infinite way of being. It has nothing to do with that. So that's why trying to make this three-dimensional experience of yourself more comfortable or better, or fixing it, or maintaining it even, is literally like you invest in a place where there's no hope for that. That really needs to be let go of in order to experience something else. And to experience something else will be the place where you actually are free of this material concept you hold about yourself. So there is no body to be healed. There is no sickness, lack, or limitation. But you can only experience that when your consciousness is lifted into the fourth dimension. Otherwise you will experience limitation, lack, and disease and disaster. Because that is what this is for, this three-dimensional limitation. You are, say, in essence, in the infinite way of being, you are not a three-dimensional entity. You are not. So know ye not that you must be born again, is one of the expressions we know very well. Now you see, we're getting somewhere, and this is all in the book. And not, see, I'm showing the book just to reference to it. Not that you have to buy it in order to be in this class. That's not necessary. But it can be great to read it and to study it. Sure, absolutely. So there are talks related to this. There are books related to it. Like the Infinite Way book, for instance, is the first chapter. And New Horizon is in the book The Infinite Way. Now, The Infinite Way is known to be not so easily readable as a book. Like, they recommend it for you to read it in many of the Infinite Way websites. Like, start with the Infinite Way book. Well, it's like, yeah, that's not so easy. That's not an easy book to read. Just like I think that the talks of Joel are, in the first instance, not so easy to listen to. They immediately will give you a sense of comfort, sure, because of the light that you start to recognize. But that is like, so it has, you see, there's something going on there. So the instruction that you need to follow is not the instruction to become a better student or a better human being or a better this. So the instruction that you're receiving is, in fact, say, handing yourself, surrendering yourself into a whole different experience of yourself, completely different, that has nothing to do with anything that's familiar to you on this three-dimensional plane. So that's why it's an experience, a new experience that is say, opening a new horizon. In fact, the only horizon that is real about you. So that is, say, just about what I want to use as the introduction to the classes that will follow, because otherwise I'm starting with chapter 1 and that's tomorrow. So I want to, answer questions if there are any. I would love to answer questions if you think like, hey, what are we actually going to do? Well, I can tell you this about the meetings that we have on Saturdays. It's like they will be 1 hour long. And yes, you can prepare. For some of them, you can prepare. I can send you some material. I can do whatever is needed. If that is helpful to you, I'm happy to do so. So it is a 1 hour meeting. There's a part in it that will be meditation. Maybe we listen a little bit to Joel, and we certainly dive into the chapter and say, dig out some main themes that are purely transformational, that are complete support for your recognition that nothing is happening by your doing, but this is really for you to receive. How to listen to the still small voice. What does it mean to, say, move into another dimension? What are the fetters that bind me? And what does it actually mean to forgive 70 times 7? So we certainly will use biblical references too, because Joel uses them in every chapter. So in the back of the book, you see an overview of all the biblical references that are in there, all the scripture that is used and referenced to by Joel. And then you see, Joel teaches Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and the teachings of Jesus, you could say. And the recognition with that is my inspiration to actually do this. So that's really lovely. So this was my introduction to this. If you still feel like signing up, you're welcome to do so. And the videos will be available, of the classes will be available on YouTube. And who knows what happens. I don't know.